Global Voice Broadcasting. Hot music, hot talk, and hot topics. All day, every day. 24/7. You don't want to miss a minute on Global Voice Broadcasting.
Hey, everybody.
What's going on, guys? Hi.
Hi, Jimmy's back.
Woo!
Welcome to Into. This is a live, interactive talk show about gay issues. I'm your resident psychotherapist, Matt Dempsey.
And I'm Jimmy Fowley. I'm a comedian. I typically have a joke prepared, but today I am just back. So I'm easing into it, so I don't have a joke prepared. And we are live every Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time at www.into.show. And you can follow us on social media at Into Talk Show.
That's right, and we're totally interactive, so we want you to call in. The number should be up on the screen. It's 323-522-5482. So call in because we want to hear the questions that you guys have for us. So think about the questions that you have and then do call in.
Exactly. And without further ado, we're just laughing because we actually did. This is our second time doing an intro because we were broadcasting to a different space. So
totally, we had a little hiccup, but now here we are.
We're
a couple minutes late, but we're back.
We're back, and we'll just jump right into our topic. Today's topic is open relationships. So Matt, what made you think this would be a good topic for tonight?
Because relationships, dating, love, all of that stuff, people are really interested in talking about. I'm very interested in talking about. You and I talk about this a lot too. And so open relationships specifically is its own thing, for us to just kind of jump into a little bit. And especially for, I think, gay relationships. This is something that comes up probably even much more frequently than in the straight world.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's actually more common to be like for gay men to be in open relationships than monogamous? Or I mean, I don't know even where that data would be available, but like I almost get the vibe that it's just maybe 50-50, like based on my friends. And
I mean, it might be as open as your shirt is right now, showing everybody your nipples.
I told Matt to tell me if my nipples came out. Oh my god, how unprofessional of me. It's really hot, you guys. It's like 110 degrees, and
we've got a heat wave.
Yeah.
But anyway, going to your question though, honestly, about what was the question about how
is it common? Almost more open relationships than.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't necessarily have any kind of like specific numbers before me or anything.
But based on just like people like in.
Just kind of on a personal level, and this is not backed up by any kind of clinical research per se, but just based on my own personal experiences, for us, the tendency for open relationships to happen, the kind of frequency of it happening in the gay world, I think, is so much more than the straight world. Mm-hmm. And I think a big part of that also is the fact that because we're already operating outside of a lot of social norms and constructs anyway.
Totally.
We don't necessarily have to be held to the same specific standards, and so we've kind of have a little bit more liberty for us to experiment with different kinds of relationships and the kinds of relationships that can work or don't work.
And I feel like there's there's two camps. Like some people are like, no, like like you see those articles that are like, gay men need to stop having the Peter Pan syndrome, and like we can have and then there's the other camp that's like no, that's not what this community is about, and we don't want your like normalized heterosexual. So it's kind of interesting. It's like this
absolutely
backlash from
and then there's kind of the world of gray in between too. But you're right, there's definitely these kind of like two polarizing perspectives. The one that does say we have every right to be able to have any kind of relationship that we want. It's kind of a broad spectrum. It's what works for us. We don't have to be held to a specific standard. And then other people that say that, opening relationships, it's done for the wrong reasons. It's making it a lot more challenging for us to have more intimate relationships. Things get a lot more messed up.
What do you think are the like wrong reasons for be in an open relationship?
Well, I would never classify things as right or wrong per se, but I think that one really important thing to check in on, I know that this is kind of vague, but is the intention behind it. If we're talking about opening a relationship and the intentions behind that, if it has to do with how we're able to, kind of broaden the scope for what our relationship is and what our experience can be together, and how we might be able to just still kind of have some of our own intimacies or sexual experiences outside of this, and that somehow kind of is incorporated into how we can feel closer together, then that's fine. Then that's great. But a lot of times, it might be guided by some of the, kind of the wrong intentions about, just wanting to escape.
Yeah, or like I've been in relationships where like we've stopped having sex as much, and then so it's like, well, maybe we should open it up, and then it's like, well, that seems like there's maybe something more going on. Why we're not connecting.
Yeah.
So to throw in like a third person in the mix is like, but I mean,
definitely,
but you never know. Like,
yeah, I mean, and it's challenging, and a lot of times it's not going to be so black and white, one reason or the other. There's going to be, kind of a number of reasons why we might be making the decisions that we do to open a relationship or not. But being able to check in on what's the primary motivator for why we might be even considering this, or why this is a part of our relationship or not. But it's interesting though. So we threw the question out there on social media earlier today, and I was really kind of interested actually in a lot of the response that we had, and there was even this kind of like on Instagram, there was a bit of this thread where people kept messaging like, yeah, I agree with you. So I kind of want to read that a little bit. So we had at Philstergram, who asked the question, why bother even being in a relationship if you have the urge to open it to others? Then at JC Reyes said, totally agree. Part of being in a relationship is saying that you have a special person in your life, that there is one person in the world that has all of you, and that you are all that matters. And then at Samurai Boy 22 said, I completely agree. When you get into a relationship, you are choosing that one person over all others, past or future. So all these people really are saying we should not open these relationships. And what's the point of being in one at all if you're just going to open it up and have sex with whoever you want? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, we've talked about this before, where like dating, like right now, being in a space where you're kind of like going on dates, like almost like gay DD, like not ADD, but gay DD, where you're like hanging out with people, and like there's kind of a connection, and then you're like, well, then I met someone else, and then it's like, but you're still talking to that first person, and like, I mean, this is kind of slightly off that topic, but just of like spreading yourself thin and not really connecting with that one person. So I'm feeling like I relate more with like being kind of just like all over the place and like connecting with multiple people, because I haven't connected with one person since my last relationship, where it was like really, and we never. Like, I feel like I have the tendency to start with an open relationship because you're still getting to know. You're just, like, dating. Yeah. But not, like, keep that open relationship, as it goes forward. You know what I mean? Like you're not in an open relationship. I guess you're just kind of, like, dating multiple people.
Well, so what are you saying then? Getting into any future relationships, would you be more inclined to have them be open?
Well, I'm, like, super jealous. So I feel like, I don't know. Like, I would be so curious how what are your boundaries and like what are the rules, because my friends who have like they'll be in a relationship, they'll open it up to like a guest star, right? We've talked about that on the show, right? That term, guest star.
We did, like opening it up to a third
person.
There's so many different ways of having open relationships, so we're obviously not just talking about one specific thing, but essentially we're talking about any kind of sex that can happen outside of the relationship between you and whoever your partner is. But just going back to the question, it's just kind of like, at the core, why even have a relationship at all if you're just going to be connecting with all of these other people? And my thought on it is that it can potentially give you so much more of an opportunity to just experiment, play, have fun. The idea that we're supposed to just be with just one person sexually for the rest of our lives kind of sounds like a little bit of an outdated concept.
You think so?
I do. I do think that it sounds like an outdated concept. I don't think that it's something that's in our nature, that we're meant to be just paired up with just that one person sexually and exclusively for the rest of our days.
So we're different from penguins in that manner.
Have you heard that thing? I have heard that. I'm not sure how monogamous penguins are with
I don't know. I just wanted to
I know that they partner, but also let's also differentiate between partnering and also like sexual partners, because those are different things. So you could absolutely, why not, like, be partnered with somebody and have that be the special person in your life for the rest of your life. But also there might be opportunities for each or both people within a relationship to experiment outside of that. And, so just kind of going back to the idea that it's just something that is, kind of like tied into our history about like what marriage is supposed to be and how marriage is about ownership and how
where
you're
did
not
that
supposed
idea come from? Like, that's just from like when marriage was about connecting families and land, and like, is it?
Yeah, it was about that. It was just kind of it was almost like just kind of like a contract that was and there was so much just about property and ownership and all of that. So it really stems from that idea, and so the fact that we're continuing to operate off of that without maybe having an opportunity to kind of open our minds and expand some of how we're thinking about this, and maybe even experiment and expand how we might actually be engaging relationships. Doesn't mean that you have to say, oh yeah, I'm monogamous and that means I'm going to be monogamous for the rest of my life. It doesn't mean that you have to say I'm going to open a relationship and now I have to be committed to that and whatever that means for the rest of my life. But it does mean how much can we just open our minds. And if we're finding ourselves being immediately judgmental about it, then checking in on where that judgment comes from, as opposed to just considering and assessing if this is something that works for me or not.
You mean like the judgment of open relationships?
Yes.
Like if you're like, oh, that's, like I know two people who are in an open relationship, and if you had that judgment like, oh, that's gross, or...
Totally, yeah. Or if somebody says, have you ever been in an open relationship? And you say like, no, I could never do that.
Did I do that before?
No.
Okay, I was just checking.
But if somebody did,
So what do you think? I mean, like, have you worked? I don't know how much you can talk about it, but have you worked with clients who have kind of tried to navigate these waters of like, we're starting to open up, and what are the rules, and like, can we like have a date? Like, do we bring someone in like the two of us, or can I have a connection?
What I would say is interesting. The thing that comes up the most is when clients come in and they'll say, we're having issues, whether it's a couple or just somebody that comes in and is talking about the relationship, saying that there are sexual issues in the relationship.
Yeah.
And one of the possible solutions that was considered was, should we open up our relationship? But what tends to happen is when that is kind of a reaction to some sexual issues that are going on, I would recommend taking pause. Like if you're having some difficulty in connecting on any level, and especially sexually with your partner, probably not the most ideal time to experiment with seeking sex outside of that, because that is just going to be so much more of a clue that something else is going on deeper. It just tends to be where some of our shit manifests itself, right? Like, because it's a physically intimate act, and if you're having some kind of issues with intimacy in general, then you might find yourself less inclined to be physically intimate and all of that. It just becomes a barrier for us to be vulnerable in that way. So again, if it's a response to an issue that's happening, I would say hold off.
Gotcha, because you're kind of vulnerable, and then to bring in this third person, it's, it could be, it might be more challenging.
Totally.
Because you're working on your connection. So then there's this third person in the mix, kind of, right?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it's kind of addressing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Because it's quite likely not going to be about the sex. It's going to be about other issues. And so if you're just then fixing it with some other kind of like sexual outlet, that's probably still not going to be the thing that's going to help that out. And if anything else, it's probably just going to add more layers to the problem and have it be even that much more confusing and more challenging to figure out.
Yeah. Have you ever been in an open relationship? Can you say that? I don't know how personally you want to be on the show.
Like I can say that only because I haven't really. Like one time when I was 18 in a relationship that was only a few months long, and he had like gone off to like study abroad, and just like not like real. Do you know what I mean? Not like
Matt, not real. What if he's listening? How dare you? Not real.
Let me like completely like delegitimize that person in that relationship.
There's literally an 18-year-old listening to the show who has someone.
Totally. Okay, you're absolutely right, and I apologize. No, that's actually a totally valid point. It's not the fact that I was 18 years old having a relationship. It was just that there wasn't a significant level of commitment within that relationship as it was anyway. So I would say, based off of that, I haven't really been in a relationship where that's been the case. And I think that my personal opinion on this has evolved over the years, in the sense that, kind of like in my 20s, it's like I would really be the person who would immediately jump to the belief that I don't think I would ever do that. I don't judge other people. I'm like totally open, and if it works for them, that's great. But like, I don't think that I would do that. And I've evolved, I think, since then, where I think that if I were in a relationship, and probably for a significant amount of time, monogamously, where I'm able to like truly develop a connection specifically with just the one person on all fronts, including sexually, that over time then that could be something that inevitably can be incorporated into the conversation about how we as a couple can evolve, because that's always going to happen anyway. Things are always going to change and shift and evolve, and so how much that can at the very least just have an openness for that being a part of the conversation. But I don't ever want to be in a relationship where there are other more significant issues that are going on. And I'm talking about like kind of more significant stuff, not just kind of like the kind of more surfacey stuff, but like more significant issues, and then having an open relationship be something that can kind of muddy that a little bit more. What about you?
I actually, I would be open for an open relationship. Sorry that I just made that pun. I thought that wasn't a pun, was it?
That was meta.
Was it?
Openness about openness.
Oh, it was. But then also it was kind of like a wordplay, right? I'm just trying to figure out what the hell I'm doing on the show. I feel like I would totally do an open relationship, but like sometimes I wonder, like, because my goal is eventually like to have a husband and to have a family and have kids, and I'm like, I just wonder people, and maybe people have figured it out, they have like healthy boundaries and they still can have like kids, and if they open up the relationship romantically, but like, is that a whole part of it? Is it like the kids are at camp and then like a third person comes home? Like, I mean, straight people do that too, I'm sure, so it's not like this
isn't exclusively gay. No. No.
So
open relationships exist across the board.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. So, and I keep looking over here because we had a question too that's kind of similar, I think, to piggybacking off of what you were saying, where at John Jr. asked, where do you draw the line between what's acceptable and what isn't? So regardless of kind of where you are at, if you're just starting to date, or if you're married, or if you're like, just like many years or decades even into your relationship, and this is something that's a consideration, how do you even do that? Maybe even especially if you're further along, kind of down the line of your relationship, how do you successfully do that? What are just immediate thoughts that come to your mind? Like if you're trying to figure that out, what would you say? What's your gut tell you to do?
If there were kids involved, like it was like I never would want like my kids to see like this weird man that they don't know like slip away.
Just in general, not even necessarily like a specific hypothetical, but if you're like in a significant relationship with somebody, how do you figure out what's going to work and what's not about exploring and testing the waters for an open relationship?
Well, I guess you do a lot of communication about it, and then you also maybe a little bit of trial and error. You know what I mean? Because you got to see kind of like I have no idea what would be comfortable and what wouldn't. And so I think it would just be kind of like figuring it out.
Totally. I think that's super key, is to be very fluid and flexible about it, and also communication is so key, and also make sure that trust is on point in your relationship. You have to be able to trust your partner, and also a big part of trust is having just really open, real, honest conversation, and difficult, vulnerable conversation with your partner about opening it up, and then what that would mean, right? So also being honest and saying, we're not sure what's going to work and what's not. Let's start out with maybe inviting a third in, or maybe just testing it out, just us doing our own thing one night and seeing. But it's going to be really, really important. I think a lot of times people get tripped up, and this has happened with a number of my clients too, is that people can get tripped up and have things become a little bit more complicated when there's not any kind of extensive communication about it, where the decision is, let's open it up. And then nobody knows exactly what that means. Nobody knows what the boundaries are, what the parameters are, what kind of guidelines are going to be okay and what's not okay. And it makes it kind of unsexy when you have to be like really specific about it. But that's really important and is super, super, super crucial in any open relationship, is to just be totally on the same page and continuing to check back in with each other along the way.
And is it hard for people to do? What was I giving you dead face?
No.
I'm Matt. Sometimes like Matt like is like, you're giving me nothing, and like I was watching the show when I was home, and I was like, oh, Jimmy, smile, like be like more smiley. So I'm trying, but like, and so where do you even begin? Like you're just like you just address every sort of
when the conversation comes up, however it comes up, organically or whatever. to just say like, okay, this is something that we're interested in. This is something we're considering. So let's talk about it. What do you think it would be like? You know, how are you feeling about this? Do you want to try this out? What do you think you'd be okay with? This is what I think I'd be okay with. And then just spitballing, brainstorming, seeing what you think. And then like anything else, you're going to refine it. You know what I mean? Kind of like when we started this show, we didn't know exactly how we were going to do or what we were going to do, but we kind of, had some ideas about it and started kind of piecing things together, and we finding out what works and what doesn't. And there's been a lot of communication along the way to figure that out. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
We're just not having sex.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as far as the viewers know.
All right, let me go to another question. So we had at Nadav Dagani ask, are open relationships an escape from real commitment or just acting against social norms and thinking outside the box?
Wait, read that one again?
Sure. Are open relationships an escape from real commitment or just acting against social norms and thinking outside the box? Like, is it actually,
both.
is it, okay. How do you think?
Because I think, I can imagine, like, what we're kind of talking about, that it seems to be a route, like, when people are saying, hey, we're having these issues, we're thinking about, like, so it's like a solution. So when there's other stuff going on, and I know personally there's been times where I'm in a relationship and we're having some issues, and I'm like, or, like, being really honest, like, I'll have a connection with someone else who, I'm in this relationship and I have this connection, and it's like, oh, but like, I can't be with this person because I'm in this committed relationship. Well, what if suddenly their relationship, the guidelines were more open, so then it's like, oh, I can have, I can have what I want in this situation and keep the relationship. So
you're talking about beyond just sex then, if you start actually developing feelings for somebody else and are having sex and almost kind of like an emotional experience with somebody else too.
Totally.
Yeah. So how do you navigate that one then?
I mean, I've been in relationships where I've been like, what if we just, opened it up? And like the person like shut it down. Like it was not on the table.
Yeah.
And then like I've just tended to date guys who are like more wanted to just have something monogamous, and and so and then I've been in other relationships where like in college I dated this guy and we're kind of back and forth, and then like it was over the years we kind of just had this like weird like dramatic thing that it was open just because we were so inconsistent, unable to find something that worked for us.
Totally.
Exactly. So in that situation, I don't think it was like very healthy.
Yeah. So I think you're right. I think it can be both, right? Like sometimes it can be an escape, and other times it can actually be something that is going against the social norm, and us being able to kind of broaden the spectrum of what a relationship means or can entail. And again, just going back to something that we were saying earlier, it's so about intention, which means having to self-reflect, have some insights about, okay, where is this coming from? Like, why am I thinking about wanting to be with other people? Am I solid in this relationship with my partner? Am I feeling like I'm not really connecting, and so I want to connect outside and try to, kind of like piecemeal together some kind of like intimacy with a variety of people?
Yeah.
So being as kind of, vigorously honest with ourselves as much as we possibly can, and checking in on that, and also having that conversation with our partner too, if that's something that's on the table and we're considering, okay, let's talk about it. Like, why do we want to do this? Like, are we solid? Are we looking for something else that we're really struggling to, kind of find here? But being able to check in on that, and it's nothing you're ever going to be able to do perfectly, but at the very least, as long as you're checking in on that, then you can, kind of find some comfort within that.
Yeah. And what do you do if one person in the relationship is like, I'm down, this is something I do want to try, and the other person is like, I really feel uncomfortable? Like, do you feel like it's worth them trying it out, or like is that like, no, you're like, shut it, don't do it because it doesn't feel good to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky, and I think that it's really, for each of us individually, it's really, really important for us to know what we feel comfortable with and what we don't. And what our needs are in a relationship. If we happen to be the kind of person where we feel really adamantly about maintaining monogamy in our relationship, that's fine. Nobody's saying you have to be in an open relationship. There's not a right or wrong thing. So just being able to check in with that and have those conversations, and then just see. And you have to be really respectful of your partner too, and kind of when they're expressing what their needs are, how they're feeling. We have to be, patient with each other.
Sure.
So I think we might actually have a phone call.
Yes.
So caller, are you there?
Yeah, hi.
Hey, how you doing? What's your name?
My name is Sam.
Hey, Sam.
Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Koreatown.
Whoa.
Oh, Sam. Koreatown is beautiful.
Oh, I agree.
Sam, what's your question?
Yeah, I had a question. Well, I wanted more so to just get your opinion on something.
Okay.
So, my partner and I have sort of an open relationship. Like, he and I are pretty much down to jerk off with, a wide variety of people. So we haven't done it too often. But that's about as far as he ever wants to go. So, do you have any advice on how I could, get him to be down for more?
Kind of. I'm just curious about something. So you said you kind of have an open relationship. So just so I know and can clarify. So the open relationship, as far as it's gone so far, is that you all will like sometimes once in a while like just like jerk off with some other guys, and then that's kind of it.
Yeah.
And you guys do that together, or do you do it separately?
We do it together.
Okay. How did that even come about? Was that a conversation that happened? Did it happen just more organically?
Oh, well, yeah, we've been pretty open about everything in the beginning. I mean, not our relationship, but just being able to talk about things. And we both realized we had a mutual love of seeing people's dicks.
Yeah. Knows what he likes.
And I mean, doesn't necessarily have to go further than that. I do enjoy just, there's a certain closeness, I think, with being naked with people. We like to go to the hot springs and a lot of stuff like that where we can be naked with people, and not necessarily in a sexual way, just in a, being naked way. So.
Got it.
And plus, living in Koreatown, there's a lot of legit spots where people aren't hooking up, and so you can just be naked with people. And I think sometimes messing around with other people is an extension of that.
Yeah. And then random question, without sounding like creepy, but I'm just curious, do you guys kiss the other person, or are you guys just in your own world jacking off? I know that sounds so fucking creepy, but I'm just trying to visualize.
Yeah, paint that picture, Jimmy.
It definitely
You just realized that
on the person.
It depends on the person. Okay, cool.
Got it. Okay, so
you get a vibe, and
so it sounds
smokers, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. Right. So it sounds like that things have maybe just gotten a little bit handsy, otherwise just a little bit of, public nudity. And that's kind of been it. But now you're a little bit interested in exploring something beyond that, and you're kind of unsure about how to do that. Am I getting that right?
Yes. Yes.
Is that, am I missing something on that?
No, I mean, we have done more with one other person, but
What's more?
the circumstances. Well, I mean, I guess
Oral sex, anal sex, fingering. You can say it.
Yes, something like that.
He's all of the above.
Okay, got it.
The show is graphic tonight, and I love it.
Yeah, why not?
Matt's mom's listening, P.S.
She is. Hi, Mom. Okay, but so there was one time where something went a little bit more than just handsy, and was that something that you guys had planned, or it just kind of happened?
I guess the time that happened, we had discussed, if I guess it went further,
would we be okay with going for it?
Yeah, I mean, actually, my partner finds it kind of awkward, but I'm oftentimes in the moment, just verbally ask, to get consent from him as well as the other person, and be like, hey, would it be okay if I kissed you, or would it be okay if I kissed him, or would it be okay if, or do you, it looks like you want to suck his dick. Do you want to do that? And
so you're a little bit more of the eager one.
I'm the one who will vocalize it.
Got it. Yeah. There's no judgment there. All right. So, what kind of conversations at all have you had with him about wanting to start exploring it a little bit more, considering opening the relationship up even more than you have before?
Well, I mean, we've had the conversation, and he is like down for it. It's just, with the right person, and we keep getting not the right person. So,
okay.
And how do you meet the
our
people?
Standards and who qualifies for that is different.
Yeah. And Sam, how do you meet these people? Are they friends or people off like hookup apps? Like, what's or kind of just like a mix of everything?
I guess it's a mix. The people that yeah, it's a mix.
Okay, so kind of a number of different ways that you could potentially meet people, but you haven't been meeting the right person. So, Sam, I'm sorry, what specifically is your question?
Well, do you have any advice on how I could, not talk him into it, but, how I could broach the subject of, your opinion of that third perfect person may be too high for that person to ever exist.
Got it. Okay, so he's basically kind of putting the kibosh on every time that you think that you found somebody, and then he's saying no, even though otherwise he's saying he's open to hooking up with other people.
Yeah, I mean, and I do believe him that he is open to doing more with other people. Just I don't know. I'm kind of a free love hippie kind of person,
right?
And if there's I don't mind kissing people. Because I like getting close to people in certain circumstances, and he's definitely more the person that's like, I don't feel comfortable with.
He's a little bit more specific. Got it. Yeah. I mean, really, Sam, all that you can do, it sounds like you're already having conversations about it and you guys are checking in with each other. That's really all that you can do. And I mean, I can understand if it's kind of frustrating, because if you were entirely on your own, you have a broader spectrum of what love looks like and can look like for you in terms of your interests. Maybe he's a little bit more specific. If the conversation and the contract between the two of you has been, we both have to agree on the person and we're going to do this together, then that just might have to be where it's at, And if for you the importance is maintaining that, kind of connection in your relationship and trust within your relationship, then it might mean at times having to concede to what the other person wants, and that's kind of maybe a little bit of where the compromise can come from. It's also something that can, be an open dialogue. You can keep checking back in and seeing if anything has changed, or maybe seeing how he feels about continuing to expand how you guys are defining open relationship. Maybe you can do things separately. But again, just the key part of it being communication. We can't ever really talk anybody into it, because then that might be that, somebody's going to feel the pressure of that. It's going to start to feel like manipulative in certain kind of ways. And so we really just want to be able to have a conversation with our partners in a way that everybody can feel comfortable to truly express where they're at and what they're feeling and what they feel like they're open to exploring. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so.
Kind of.
It's not like it's a problem. I just thought, maybe you guys had some good, therapist jargon I could use on it.
Yeah, oh my God.
Oh, got it. You want to use my powers for evil.
Yeah.
You shan't. No, just kidding. Sam, thanks for calling. That was a great question, though. Thanks for calling in.
That was great. Thank you so much for calling. It was a very hot show tonight. Very sexy.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, and I think particularly for somebody else who is maybe looking for a little bit more, there probably is going to be one person who's maybe kind of interested more in kind of, exploring things. It can be maybe frustrating for that person who's kind of wanting to do more. Probably frustrating for the other person too, who's feeling like they don't want to. So it's really about compromise and finding what can work or what not. But I think we have we don't have another call. We had a call, but you hung up. So call back.
Yeah, that was close. You almost made it live on air with Matt Dempsey and my nipple.
Yeah. But it's tricky, you know. Obviously, communication, it's something that you already said, and probably something that people already can, you know, assume is a part of it. But it's really, really crucial.
I had this is kind of a crazy story where there were these two guys. I knew one of them from dodgeball, and we like were at this club, like a bunch of us. It was someone's birthday. We're all like hanging out, and this guy's like very cute, very charming, and his boyfriend is like super hot, and like they were kind of giving me a vibe, and then like we exchanged numbers, and then the guy was like, you should come over and like we should do like a threesome, and I was like, yeah, this sounds awesome. And so I was like, you know, like this will be fun. And then he was kind of drunk and like not totally, like I could sense that he was like a little bit, you know, far gone. And then he was like, when you get here, just be quiet, you know, because he's sleeping, that his boyfriend's sleeping. And I went in there and he's like in his bedroom, and like we're like in the living room, and I was like, I do not know what's happening here, but like I don't feel comfortable with this, because it's like I don't know what your deal is with your boyfriend. It's like no judgment. Like honestly, I just knew in that moment, and it was super awkward to walk away from it because I felt like a crazy person.
Well, but like you also have to check in with yourself too, even though this isn't necessarily your relationship. What feels comfortable and what doesn't. So I think we actually have another call. So why don't we go ahead with that? Hey caller, are you there?
Hey, what's up?
Hey,
what's up?
How you doing? What's your name?
My name's Justin. I'm from New York.
Hey, Justin.
Hey, Justin. Thanks for calling.
Yeah. My question is, like, is this? I'm 26, and I have a lot of older couple of friends, and it just seems like this is the way, I guess, a gay relationship goes. It like goes to being a little bit open. So my question is that how like it is?
That is such a good question.
You just had some thoughts and feelings come up.
No, I feel like you just vocalized, Justin, like my feeling, like truly, like is this how it is? Like, is it weird?
Well, yeah, because like that's my key word is like being scared. So that's like where I'm like apprehensive in getting to a relationship, because I feel like it's gonna open up sometime, and like maybe like I will start feeling some way about like hooking up with somebody else, and then like everything we've built, you know, like now I feel like it's just gonna cause like a little drama within the relationship.
Yeah. So that's,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course. That's totally incredibly normal to have some of those fears about what it means to open a relationship. And just in general, especially being a part of community where open relationships have become such a norm and just so kind of accepted in a lot of ways, to then think like, is this really the only way to have a relationship if it's open? And if so, then like what does that mean? And is it okay? And like, you know, if I was in a relationship and that got opened, is that going to compromise the connection that we have with each other? You know, and it's just it's easy for us to start spinning about what it all means and to have our fear get triggered, because in general relationships are incredibly vulnerable. You're opening yourself up on so many levels to somebody else, and so to consider what it is that could potentially jeopardize or compromise a relationship, it's scary, because then it's kind of like, do I even want to invest into something then if it's just going to get opened up and everything's going to come undone?
Yeah.
So exactly. I mean, or not like come undone, more like I guess, yeah, like emotions get mixed up, you know, like what if I'm scared about, like, what if I stop falling in love with my partner and I start falling in love with the person I'm hooking up with?
Yeah.
Like, it's not only like the guy's gonna fall out of love with me. It's kind of like also like I'm scared I'm gonna fall out of love.
No, absolutely. And I mean, look, the concerns that you have and the fears that come up for you, I can say are entirely normal. And I think probably all of us have considered this and, you know, have kind of wrestled with the idea of all of that. The reality is that opening a relationship can add additional complications and complexities. It also has the potential of opening up greater intimacy with somebody. If you can be in a relationship with somebody else and you both have, you know, kind of really solid trust and communication and are able to navigate an open relationship in whatever way that means, you know, marginally successfully, then that can actually help really build intimacy within that relationship. But also the other part of it is true too, that you know, depending on what the intentions are and all that, it can make things a little bit more trying.
Mm-hmm.
So I would.
So are you saying like kind of like redefine like what you're calling a relationship? Like, is that what it is?
No, I would actually say that no matter what, there's always shit that can come up in a relationship anyway, whether it's opened or it's closed.
Yeah.
And if you're guiding your decision making today based on what can happen tomorrow, it's something that we call foreboding joy, which means it's easier for us to want to anticipate and predict what we think could happen, which a lot of times is led by fear, because then it makes us feel safer. It makes it seem, oh, I know what to expect. And so that way I'll know how to deal with this and I feel more prepared. But it's actually at the cost of just being able to exist in what can be the joyful, loving connection right in this moment. That's a more vulnerable thing to experience. So if you're finding yourself overwhelmingly thinking about stuff in the future, you're putting the cart before the horse. It's totally normal and it's incredibly understandable, but also as much as you can, refrain from that and have a sense that there really, I'm just going to totally go out on a limb here and guess. There probably hasn't been most things in your life where you haven't been able to figure it out along the way, right? There's a lot of stuff that you wouldn't have been able to predict about where you've, you know, come to at 26 years of living, but you've been able to figure it out, right? Like you're equipped with everything that you need to, whether there's big mistakes or small mistakes, you figured it out and you've come through the other end. Trust that you'll be able to do that within this too. And you'll be able to figure out if monogamy is something that you really need or if open relationships can be an option for you at some point too. And you'll figure out if that can work or how it will work and all the rest of it. But don't get hung up on the future too much.
Okay.
Justin,
well, a lot of help came from your videos, Matt. So your videos are awesome.
Oh,
they
good.
have helped me in ways you have no idea.
Aww.
What
Awesome.
about my videos?
Oh, Jimmy, no, and also Matt, thank you for introducing us to Jimmy. He's so funny. I love your Instagram.
Oh my God, he's the best.
Like, no, your videos with like the wigs and like you gave your number to that guy was hilarious. Like I showed my whole office and everybody was laughing.
That is my favorite one. We were just talking about that yesterday.
Oh my God, thank you so much, Justin.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you one question, Justin. So your biggest fear would be like if you were in a relationship that you might fall in love with this person who is kind of coming into the relationship as like a guest star type person.
I wouldn't know how to handle that. Like maybe I would have to like I guess what Matt was saying, like intention. Like if I wanted to open it up, then like be like, okay, so this is just gonna be like about sex and not emotion, like falling in love with this guy. Like I would have to figure it out, like if I would be okay with it.
Yeah, because it's just interesting because my fear would be to be in the relationship and my boyfriend would connect with someone. So totally. I just think that's interesting, like those, like where, I mean,
no, because like you don't want to hurt that person who you're in love with too, you know. So it's like.
Well, that's why that's
where I'm like, it's like messy, you know. Like,
well, and that's why it's
like it's a little sticky.
That's why it's so important in every other area of your relationship to be as open and honest and vulnerable with your partner as you can, and make sure that you guys are talking about things and have the conversation keep going. You know, especially the stuff that can be really uncomfortable. That's arguably even the most important stuff to be talking about, so that when you're able to really build on that trust, then when you're getting to a point, if you have an open relationship or opening it up, then you'll, of course you'll be scared. Of course there's these, some thoughts or concerns that maybe any of this stuff can happen, but also being able to trust that if any of it does, your partner will come back and talk to you about it. Or if you're feeling something, you can trust that it's a safe space to go and talk to your partner about it.
Totally.
That's why trust and communication are essential. Right. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for
Justin,
calling
thanks
in.
for calling in.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right.
We'll talk to you later. Sorry, I act so weird. Like,
talk to you later.
I'll give you a call tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Like we know each other.
So Jimmy, we're kind of starting to run out of time.
You guys
I've been missing my buddy.
Miss him? Okay, so
here we go.
You guys know that we modified the rules, so when Matt feels like he's ready to be done with giving my puppet Tristan any sort of advice, he will ring a bell, which will sound like this. Oh, here, I think if you hold the... There you go. Then that means he's done, okay?
Yes.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, Tristan, how you doing?
I'm okay. I just, I'm upset because I'm in an open relationship, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And they keep getting brunch without me.
Okay. So you've been upset about that?
I'm really upset. I feel like it just kind of feels like they're starting to have a connection, and it's like, what the hell am I supposed to do?
Oh, well, I think that makes sense. You know, it's upsetting anytime that we're feeling any kind of disconnect, and if you are, your partner's going out to brunch with other people without you, you're feeling that's upsetting.
Yeah, just like, now I don't know if it's like I want to punish him by like not talking to him for a while, just like really just give him the silent treatment so he knows that I'm like really pissed.
Okay. Oh, so you really just want to let him know that you're upset.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna do like, my stepmom, she would just not talk to me for days and sometimes months, and it's like I'm totally gonna just give him a taste of that medicine.
So I get that, because it's a lot easier for us to want to try to evoke a feeling in somebody, and especially uncomfortable stuff that we're maybe feeling, and don't want to say it directly because it could be really vulnerable, and that can be a scary thing for us. But otherwise, if we're not talking directly, it can be a little bit more challenging and can actually, kind of be problematic for our relationships. We want to be open and honest. So what do you think about that? How do you think about, just having a direct conversation?
Well, normally, if I really want to, talk to him, it'll be when we're having sex and I'm fucking him, just coming inside his guts.
His guts? What? Okay.
Well, you did a really good job with him this week.
You know what? But Tristan's opening up too. So
he's talking about his stepmom.
We're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere. So. All right, Jimmy. Well, we are all out of time. So everybody, please be sure to check back in every Monday and next Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific. We'll be back again.
Exactly. And make sure you're following us on our social media at Into Talk Show. And feel free to just, hit us up with any questions, comments, even just show topics, because this show is really about you guys connecting.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Totally. And everybody, always remember, today's a chance to uplift someone else so we can all rise together.
Because if you don't, you're absolute trash. Music sting.